qué no regresas, hija?
Mamá, allí no puedo respirar.
Yes, so my name is Ana Asensio. I am the writer, director, and the star of the film Most Beatiful Island. This is my first film as a director, and the story of the film narrates one day in the life of Luciana. Luciana is a Spanish immigrant living in New York City, undocumented, and how, as we follow her throughout her day, how her day turns into a pretty asphyxiating nightmare, I would say. Being here with the film is beyond my dreams and my expectations when I shot my film. Just because this is one of the biggest film festivals in the world and most prestigious, and it's a dream come true that such a tiny film like mine, gets to be here. I'm extremely honored. Yeah, so I moved to New York City when I was very young, 22 years old, and I moved there as a student, and then I eventually wanted to transition into a working visa, and while I was waiting for that paperwork to come, and also with the uncertainty if I will eventually have it, there were so many months of waiting, and I ran out of all my savings. It was very difficult for me to find a job, and at that time it was like the most struggling time in my life. I was very stubborn. I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to leave New York City, and somehow I figured out a way to survive on very little food and just random jobs and live in a tiny apartment. And so that kind of like that experience at that time in my life is what inspired me to write this story, which the lead character in the story has a similar situation. And then there was an event in which a woman who didn't know me had my phone number, so she called me and she said that she got my number from a girl from my school, and she offered me to work at a party. It was very unspecific, but basically she just said I would just have to show up dressed in a costume for Halloween, and that was it, and I was going to get paid cash. And that's kind of like these things happened in New York too. So when I actually arrived there, it was not what she told me, and I was trapped into a place that they didn't allow me to leave, and I was just the fear that I had that what if anything happened to me, nobody knows I'm here. I didn't have a cell phone at that time. So thankfully nothing happened to me, but it is true that I was afraid and vulnerable, and kind of like that triggered to tell this story. How did I come here? What were the hours and the events leading up to this moment? So I really wanted to, fictionizing and dramatizing the actual story, just tell a story of someone like me, which I met so many girls in a similar situation, and also just like figuring your life day by day. When you are an immigrant, in a way, you're just deciding, do I continue here or do I just get my suitcase and leave? Mm-hmm. So kind of like that was the connection with my personal story and the source of the inspiration. New York City is an incredible place to just observe characters, and so to me it was very important that I wanted to capture that energy and that realism, and so from the very beginning I knew I wanted to use as many non-actors in the film as possible. So that was actually way more challenging than finding actors who wanted to work in the film, because regular people don't want to be in a movie most of the time, especially New Yorkers. They do not care. So that was like a really challenging process. I myself was knocking on doors and begging to these people, can you please be in my film? You're just going to play yourself, and so on. But that was actually a very long process, just gaining the confidence and the trust from them to allow me to film them. And then they were just terrific, right? Like they brought this realism that because they are doing what they actually do in their daily basis. So that was great. And so the first half of the film, there's the majority of the people in the film are non-actors. And then the second part of the film, the majority of the people in the film are actors, and then there's only one person there who is not an actor. It's just like a real person doing sort of like what he does for a living. And it's just a very interesting the way you speak with a person who's not an actor. Because I would say like, oh, so this is what the scene is going to be. I'm saying this and you're saying that. And then they would say like, I would never say that. I was like, oh no? So then just say what you would say if I say this. It was like terrific. I mean, you know, as actors, they usually say like, okay, even if you're thinking, that doesn't make sense, I'll just make it work. It's kind of like a challenge, but a real person, they just straightforward say like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so that was amazing. And, you know, I think that what they brought into the film is something invaluable, like just more than I could write, because I write from observing them, but they were telling me this is who I am and this is how things work in this restaurant, this is how we do, and in my deli, that is how things work. Yes, that was pretty much you know, from the beginning of deciding to write a film, I had in mind I wanted to write a film that I could play, if not the leading role, one of the leading roles. In this case, it ended up being the leading role, but that was also one of my motivations at first, right? Coming from being a struggling actor in New York City, so that from the beginning I knew I wanted to play this role. Yeah, I mean, for once, I felt very exposed, just because that was written by me and it was very personal and close. Then having to be in front and behind the camera with all the raising questions, if I knew what I was doing, it was a lot of pressure. And financially, I found all the financing for the film as well, so I felt like a huge responsibility on the outcome altogether. So while shooting the film, I really didn't enjoy it that much, just because I had this weight over my shoulders of all the things that it had to come out good, or else I would be disappointing a lot of people. I convinced people to work for free, donate things, and so many, you know, so many favors and so much support, just by the trust that this was going to be something special somehow, one way or another. And so I just felt like I had a huge responsibility while taking on doing this film. No, not really. You know, the hardest part of the story, the background of the character and why she's there, that didn't happen to me. So that was a fiction writing that I added to really explain why was she there, since she was you know, she was older than who I was when I lived these things. I kind of like thought that I had to have a very powerful reason why she would be there. So that actually is the most dramatic part of the story at the beginning of the film. And you know, putting myself in that skin, it was terribly painful, but that didn't happen to me. And everything else that were actually based on my own experiences, I just actually find it funny in a way, because I was just now in a better situation, not doing all these ridiculous jobs and so on. So kind of like, it didn't feel like that painful at all. Well, I guess I am in a typical case, just because I didn't follow any rules. Okay. So I didn't study filmmaking. I was an actor who decided to write I never wrote before. I was writing in English when my native language is Spanish and the one that I have more control of. So I feel like, they tell you in your first film, don't have children, animals, or shoot on film. And I did all of that. I mean, in a way, what it worked for me was to listen to my instinct and what I wanted to do rather than what I'm not supposed to do. And I heard a lot of advice. You can't do that. Oh no, in your first film, you can't do that. And so I didn't listen to anybody. And so in a way, I feel like that could be an advice. Just listen to your instinct. And because at the end, I feel like too many voices can water down your vision. And I think that the hope for filmmaking is to just have new visions and films that are giving us surprises and making us excited while watching them. It's a very simple story that I think, in a way, what I hope that people come to understand is that, or take away, is just that life is so fragile and vulnerable, and even more so when you are in situations when you don't have the basics covered. And in those situations, the chances for you to make the wrong decisions are really high, just because the pressure around is enormous. So kind of like maybe just some eye-opening about understanding why people do one thing or another, and it really comes from the personal situation and the circumstances. In this case, a woman who doesn't have many options. So the film is going around the world right now and playing in different film festivals, but it got distribution here in the UK. Bulldog Films is putting up theatrically. It's going to open on December 1st, so that's a very exciting thing, because I think that this film, I mean, like any other film, it is great to see it and experience in the movie theater, so I hope that the audience get to see it in that way. Funny, people ask about that because they have an open ending. I'm not a big fan of second parts on films or sequels, so I think this story ends there, and I'm just now excited to tell a new story. I really hope I will never have to do all this at once again. Producing is something that I'm not born to, and I hope I will never have to produce anything. Writing and directing, definitely. Writing, directing, and acting, maybe. So, I would say that definitely not all together.
It's okay. Don't be afraid. Just relax.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.